Alright, good morning everyone. Well, it's morning for me, whatever time you watch this. This is my last day at the beach, so I figured I would, I finished, Gathering Storm at the beach. I pretty much read this whole thing at the beach. I was probably about 50 pages in when I got here, so I read most of it here. So I figured I'd talk about it at the beach. And, wow, this was incredible. I did not think I would like this book as much as I did. And, like, not to say that I've disliked The Wheel of Time. I've really enjoyed reading The Wheel of Time, but it's been a lot less exciting for me as a series. There have been some great moments. There are characters that I love, but there have been parts of this series that have felt like a chore. Um, and honestly, these past two books have made it completely worth it, right? Like, you had some very good books in the beginning, but even those, I wasn't 100% sold at that point, and it felt a little bit more chore, like, oh, you've got to read The Wheel of Time. The slog did not help that at all, but with the last book, Knife of Dreams, and definitely Gathering Storm, I'm fully on board the hype train with how good these books are. And both of those books have ranked very highly in my rankings of my favorite books, while even some of the earlier very good books absolutely did not. And so I think that's a really, I really love this book. That's what I'm trying to say. This was phenomenal. I think there were no chapters in this book that I actively disliked. I think that every single chapter raised the stakes. I think that every single chapter just added to the chaos and stakes of this kind of grand finale. I think that Brandon Sanderson integrated himself very well into the writing of this book. I didn't really notice as much that he was there, and that may have been because it's probably been about a month since month or two since I last read a Wheel of Time book, just because it's how long it's taken books to get in from the library. The one downside for doing stuff outside, because of how long things have taken to get in from the library. But I didn't really notice his hand too heavily in the novel. One thing I did notice for him that I didn't necessarily like, and that's one of my biggest gripes in the book, is I feel like Matt and Perrin were underused, and after I feel like quite a while of Matt and Perrin being kind of underused and kind of stuck in a rut, I didn't really love that. I do think there was some great personality building from them, but we just didn't see much of where they were going, and it almost felt like the book didn't know what to do with them. And I really hope that they get a larger role next time. They kind of just sat there. And like, sure, some cool world building with Matt and seeing more of the Dark One's hand, and seeing some of the internal conflict from Perrin. But I'm gonna be honest, it was not my favorite part of the book. Everything else, though, was amazing. And it's crazy because it took two of what were oftentimes my least favorite POVs from the previous couple of books and made them my favorite. I think that Rand and Egwene's POVs were some of the best that in the series. Rand's, I don't want to go too in depth about what they did. I'll get into that in the spoiler section. But Rand's continuing internal conflict was amazing. I think that it worked so well throughout. I think that how he deals with his mental illness, with his oncoming insanity, how he interacts with the world around him, and the eventual finale of that, which comes in this book, was genuinely incredible. It gave me chills the entire time through reading it, and it was just this slow burn POV that just was incredible. Egwene, on the other hand, was fast moving. It felt like a huge culmination, and it honestly, the Aes Sedai plot lines have been my least favorite over the past couple of books, both inside and out of the tower. The breaking of the tower was not as impactful for me. I felt that it was slow and drawn out, and honestly, the couple hundreds of pages of what I felt was boring Aes Sedai political maneuvering was 100% worth it for this book. The Aes Sedai plot lines in this book, how everything unfolded, was genuinely phenomenal. If you've seen some of my videos before, you know that I personally believe that the Chain of Dogs narrative in Deadhouse Gates is my favorite narrative arc in fiction. And if I was able to discount the my opinion, painful process of getting here, the finale of the Aes Sedai of the Broken Tower arc would probably be number 2 by a very slim margin. It was phenomenal. I think that everything just culminated and stacked and built in such a way. There were so many just cinematic moments that made me sad that the TV show, as flawed as it was, did not make it that far because of just how incredible how incredible this finale was. Genuinely phenomenal. There were some smaller POVs and moments throughout. I think all of those were really well done. But it's really those two big, Rand and Egwene, were really the meat and potatoes of the book here. Finally, Nynaeve is not infuriating. Something I'm finally happy to hear. She was getting better in the last one, but she was finally not infuriating in this one. And then we didn't really hear much from Elaine, which is kind of one of our other big recurring characters. We also saw from Tuon, not much, but some intense stuff, but that ties more into what Egwene was doing. So overall, this was a phenomenal. I love this book. This is a front runner for my favorite book of the year, which surprised me because like last year, my favorite book of the year, I was like, it's probably going to be a Discworld book. I wasn't sure for this year, and I was super excited that it might be this one. Though then again, this is book 12 of the Wheel of Time. If you're this far in, I don't know if anything is really going to make you quit now, and I really hope it doesn't, because this is very, very good. I'll see you in a second for spoiler-filled thoughts. All right, so for my spoiler-filled thoughts, I guess I'll go, there's 4 main POVs, I'll kind of go to each of those. The first is kind of Perrin's, because nothing really happens there. It's the least impactful of all of them. And it kind of feels like almost maneuvering Perrin to where it really doesn't even feel like that. Perrin isn't in this book very much. And really, it's a couple short chapters about how he's coping with him getting back into the wolf dreams, him coping with, what he needs to do next. I think his character is very underutilized in this book, and it almost felt like Sanderson didn't know what to do with him, and that was probably the biggest disappointment, because Perrin is probably one of my favorite characters. I would say he's probably my second favorite character in the Wheel of Time, so kind of disappointing that he was underutilized in this book. Same thing with Matt too. I mean, Matt at least had more stuff to do, right? I think the village that they went to was a really good sequence, and I really enjoyed that. Obviously, we're lots of foreshadowing with the dragons, but overall, once again, I think he was largely underused, and it's kind of, at least he was maneuvered into a good position by Varen. So now they're in Camerlin, but overall, once again, underused. Felt like Sanderson didn't really know what to do with Matt, and Matt is my favorite character in the Wheel of Time, so kind of disappointing from that perspective. Contrast that completely with Rand, the last of the big 3 from the 3 Terravan from Emond's Field. Rand's arc in this book was phenomenal. Throughout this entire book, he was such a chilling character with what he does. I mean, even before, right? I mean, he was a very stoic, very hard character before Simraj got her hands on him, and you could be like, Rand, you really need to it's screaming at Rand what he needs to do, and like listen to Nynaeve, listen to Kursunadin. I don't know how to pronounce her name. The old great Aes Sedai. Listen to them. And then it's just that snap when Simraj gets her hands on him, and like you can see what led him to get where he is today. You can see what factors resulted in him being like how he is, right? But you know that it's the wrong choice, and you see especially what happens in the Eridaman, where how he comes into that city, how he leaves that city, just so many, it's insane. And then you come to this finale. The finale of Rand's arc in this book is phenomenal, right? There were several times I had to put the book down and walk around a little bit, especially what was happening with Tam, and it got my heart racing so fast. There were many parts of this book where I just had chills with how amazing Rand's arc in this book was. I really have no notes on that, and it was phenomenal. And my favorite Rand arc in a while. I think I was kind of disappointed with a lot of Rand arcs over the course of, really, since he kind of disappeared. I think that and stopped taking a major heavy-handed role in politics in kind of the East. But I think this was one of my favorite Rand arcs in the entire series. And so I was glad that we were back with that. And then I genuinely think the best arc of the entire book, one of the best finales of the entire series, and that's the conclusion of The Broken Tower. And it was just amazing. I really don't know how to describe how good this finale was. The Broken Tower has, like I said, has been probably one of my least favorite aspects of the slog in the last couple books, but Egwene has probably been, Egwene was for a while my third favorite Wheel of Time character. She might upseat Perrin as my second after how amazing she was in this book. But you have, I think, the real escalation of her activities in the tower. Her confrontation with Elida was just incredible. Her internal manipulations, and then we get to the Seachan attack, and it was phenomenal. It was one thing I think that Sanderson does very well is he writes combat very well. I think he writes fighting scenes are very good. Sanderson's fighting scenes are very good. And I think especially his magical fighting scenes are very good. And I think that this conflict was just phenomenally written. I think Robert Jordan is definitely really great with like sword, with like more like medieval weapons combat as well as battles, and I think that almost combination led to one of my favorite fictional battles ever. There were so many points of that battle that were just incredible. I absolutely loved it. It was just such a satisfying conclusion, and then finally the reconciliation of the tower, everything involved with that, all the decision. Egwene feels like the Amaryllian, and she has for the past couple books, but there you kind of see what the world sees, what the rest of the Aes Sedai see, because in a way you still see her as, Egwene, you still see that internal conflict, that questioning, but even with that somewhat questioning, it's just so good. You see that kind of disappear, and you see her truly become a phenomenal Amaryllian, and this conclusion, it's just so good. Like, I was genuinely, like I said, I'm sad. It's the reason I'm most sad that the TV show is canceled. I can just imagine Egwene riding across that bridge into Tar Valon and then cut to credits at the end of a season. Just, it's amazing. I loved this arc. I did not think I was going to love this arc. I kind of I was prepared to be disappointed by the end of the Broken Tower saga, because most of the Broken Tower saga disappointed me. But honestly, the slog was worth it just for that. So overall, I'm really excited for the next book. Unfortunately, I think I am second in line for that book, so I gotta wait for it to be returned. Memory of Light has come in though, so once I get home today, I guess I can pick that up. So I'm ready I have 14 but not 13. But it was amazing. I'm excited for the next book. I'm almost done with the Wheel of Time. This has been a series that's taken me almost 2 years to read, so I'm excited to finally see the end of the series. When it comes to what I'm reading next, I'm about halfway done with Sun Eater. Sun Eater book 1, so that will probably come next. I have the next couple of those already requested from the library. But honestly, I don't know what's going to end up happening when I go down to Tech. I don't know what their library has, how long holds will come in there, how I'll get books down from my local library to there. I'll have to figure out what happens there. But I'm excited for what comes next. Thank you for joining me on my beach vacation. I've done a lot of reading this week, and it's been a very relaxing, lot of fun time. So I will see you next time. Goodbye.